My name's Vin Adoptee, and I was adopted out from India to Australia in 1987. Why I was a different colour, but it probably would have been young. But when I was younger, my mum and dad, when they would tuck me into bed at night, they would read me stories to do with adoption. So it was always incorporated in our family, and they would tell me bedtime stories that would also incorporate my birth mother and father and my birth family. So it was really nice because I grew up knowing all my information and as much as what we knew anyway. So it was I don't think it affected me, to be honest, as a little kid, nor through my teens either. It was something that I pushed to the back of my mind because my family were my adopted family. So it wasn't an issue for me. It was normal to me because I came to my family when I was 10 months old. There was no real, I didn't know any different. So it never really played on my mind a lot. I won't say it didn't play on my mind, and I'm not exactly sure how it did, except when people would make comments like, why is your mum white? Why are you a different colour to your family? That's not normal. And I do remember talking to mum about that, saying, why do they not understand that you're my family? And why do they always question, why is your mum white? So there was always questions like that. You'd always get stupid questions like that. I thought that was stupid because to me, mum and dad and my family were just my family. So it never really made a difference to me on who my family were because I had a fantastic upbringing and I have a fantastic family. We are all so very close. I kind of wish they told me and made a bit of a joke about it. You always hear these people saying, don't joke about stuff like that and everything. But I kind of wish it was kind of like a funny story to tell. Now as an adult, I tell people when I don't tell them I'm adopted sometimes, and then when they would meet my family or see a photo, they'd get this weird look like, what's going on there? And I sort of make a joke, the stork dropped me off at the wrong house. And they're like, So and then I tell them, I'm adopted. And they're like, okay. And then you get the 50 million questions, and it's all those silly questions that people ask. But I suppose they're relevant, but sometimes I think it's none of people's business. But they're always inquisitive about adoption. Everyone's fascinated by adoption, and it is a fascinating thing. It's also a very sad thing as well, and people don't understand the complexities of adoption and how many layers of complexities it has, especially for someone like me who is an inter-country transracial adoptee. There are so many complexities, and so it's really been a struggle as an adult. And I am going to say in the past 2 years, only because it's the first time that I've sort of ever really consciously looked into adoption, especially on the online forums. There are a lot of terms that I didn't fully understand or was aware of. So I had to educate myself and get up to speed with all the terms. And there are a lot of things that did apply to me, but then there are also a lot of things that didn't apply to me. There are a lot of terms that I didn't fully understand or was aware of, so I had to educate myself and get up to speed with all the terms. And there are a lot of things that did apply to me, but then there are also a lot of things that didn't apply to me. I got branded in the fog because I wasn't aware of a lot of the terms, and that term annoys me so much, but it's a term that is commonly used in the adoption community. It just means that you're not aware of suppose, the adoption trauma and everything. And I wasn't aware of the adoption trauma. People try to convince me that I have issues that are connected to my adoption, but I know that a lot of issues aren't. Seeing the life that I had, a lot of my issues weren't connected to adoption, but there was a small portion that was. And the portion that was, I did know, but didn't quite fully understand them until I was online, in the online forums. So it helped me educate myself and really just properly understand the terms and some of the traumas that I had as well. Sometimes I'd put them down to just normal life experiences, which weren't really normal at all. I would find out that some of them were to do with adoption trauma. So there is a lot of complexities when it comes to adoption, and I do sometimes struggle with the complexities, because what I would think is complexities to do with adoption when it's to do with my life, I don't see some things that it has to do with adoption, and other people do. So, it depends on the person, of course. What would be my biggest piece of advice to prospective and adoptive parents? I run a group called the Prospective and Adoptive Parent Information Group, led by adoptees. In this group, we help educate prospective and adoptive parents with a team of adoptees who deliver the education and information in a positive, educational way. We don't attack the parents. We don't make the parents feel bad for adopting. We're not pro or against adoption. The group, we've had some comments where it is very pro, and I suppose in the sense of how we deliver the information and education to the parents is pro, because we don't like to attack the parents. That's not right, and that's not how parents educate themselves or take in the information that they want to know. So it's really, that's one of our key factors in this group, is being able to deliver a message respectfully and not by attacking the parents. But some of my biggest advices would be careful of the terms that you use in the adoption community. Adoptees are very sensitive, and they have every right to be, are very sensitive to a lot of different terminologies of what prospective and adoptive parents say and how they address certain situations. Know your information really well. Find the right people to get educated. And I'm not saying that the group that we run is the right group for everyone, because it's not. Every person finds their group where they learn off the best. Some people like being attacked. Some people don't. It just depends on whatever you're comfortable with. But I would definitely say suss out your sources. Sometimes even the negativity, even though it can come across very, very harsh, that is the truth. It's just done in a different way. It's not done in a I suppose diplomatic way. A lot of adoptees don't really have a lot of time for prospective and adoptive parents, which is understandable considering some of adoptees' past histories with their own families. So you also have to be very cautious of that and be very considerate of that, because adoptees do have trauma, and they do have layers of trauma and complex layers of trauma. And so it's very, very, very important that you understand. A lot of adoptees wouldn't agree with me on this, but I would say that prospective and adoptive parents do have a voice. It's just in a different lane than adoptees, and prospective and adoptive parents need to understand that they aren't in the same lane as adoptees. You still do have a voice. Another thing would be not to talk for your adoptee, because you can't talk for your adoptee, but you can talk about them in certain ways. There are so many. Adoption is a very complex thing, and the only people that will understand it to its full content will be adoptees. And that's not to say that the parents that are learning all about this won't know a lot of information. It's just, it's a different perspective. There are some prospective and adoptive parents that may not even be aware of certain issues that they won't think is an issue with their adoptee, but is. It's all about knowing and getting familiar with, the terminologies, the sensitivities, the laws that stop us from getting our original birth certificates. And it's all about understanding and making sure you have the right information. And if something looks, I suppose, not quite right, seek other options or ask around for different opinions, because in the adoption community there were a lot of cases of child trafficking and stolen generation children, and birth mothers having their children stolen at birth. And those are the stories that you also need to listen to. It's not just adoptee stories that you need to listen to, it's the entire triad. It's the birth parents, it's the adoptees, and other prospective and adoptive parents. So adoption is very complex, and there are a lot of things that you have to keep in mind and educate yourself on, because for what may be a great, beautiful, positive thing for you is also someone else's tragedy.